exactly how it works.
All
Neptune,
right.
how we
Well, we're
doing,
here.
guys?
I mean, that's what's important, right?
Yeah, yeah. Everyone doing all right?
Hanging in there.
Great.
Another week closer to fall.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't know. I know the middle section of our country right now is kind of baking. Um,
Yeah,
but the weather here in
It's
Virginia
baking down here too.
is 80 degrees today. Like no humidity, sunny, 80. It's like a fall day.
right,
Um,
right.
it's kind of crazy.
Yep. We are the reboot. Today we're going to talk about some IT services your IT company should be providing, and we're not going to get too. We're going to get specific with some of the topics, but just kind of an overall understanding on what you should be looking for and what should be covered, because we come across a lot of times some of our prospects that we talk to are getting half of the services that we're including in our contracts, which obviously there's going to be some pricing differences, but also you want to make sure that you have your clients and prospects' best interests in there. Before we get started, I am Brian Bratcher with BNLPC Solutions. I'm based out of Long Island, New York. And to my left or right is...
To your left is David
There
Love
you go.
at LDD Consulting out of Albuquerque, New Mexico.
And my name is Dave Groot, and I'm with Windstar Technologies in Culpeper, Virginia.
And Brandon Bowers with BPB Managed Cyber Solutions out of sunny South Florida.
Nice. All right, guys. So I think what we're seeing today is there's either a lot of all-encompassing contracts that cover everything, or some people still allow you to kind of cherry pick on the service side of things. And I still know some companies out there that just do like direct IT support, kind of ad hoc on a time block basis. Even people I'm
Per
talking to,
incident.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they're doing that, and it fits their model or their business need. But I think as we're seeing some of these changes evolve in technology, it's important to take a look at making sure that all of your stuff is covered from just from a business standpoint, and all your intellectual property is protected, and things are being done the right way as things change, and maybe something you were doing 5 years ago or even a year ago isn't done to best practices today. One of the easy things I think that we're able to provide is training for people, because that for us is a big, as we know, that's a potential entry into your network for malware, viruses, stuff like that. So providing that level of training, and we have some clients that go through some high-end in-person training with a third party, and they get their high-end phishing test done twice a year. And we introduced them to our platform about a month ago, and they were at under a 3% phish rate for the last 3 years. We sent them a campaign. We're not even done with 2 months yet, and we have a 40% phish rate. So thinking that something is being done and checking
Something probably wasn't even working.
well, the metrics were good there, but I mean, so some of the phishing that we were doing was to get people to read how ridiculous something was, like a Glassdoor review of the company they worked for, and one of it was like, my boss wouldn't let me wear slippers to the office, so they clicked because they wanted to read what other stuff was there. But you're still phished, because it's and that's the goal here, is to keep that education going, And then I know companies that don't do. I was telling the guys before, that don't do any hardware repair, and for us, that's if something isn't powering up, or a drive dies, or you need RAM, is that level of service provided, or do you just have to go out and buy a new computer, and stuff like that. Asset license management, all that stuff. We can go around the room and just talk about different things, but it's really important to know that I know clients that were doing Azure AD multi-factor but weren't licensed for it, and they assumed that they were good with that because it worked, right? It worked, so we could do it. And well, just because you could do it doesn't mean that you're licensed properly. So that's also something that we do is the license and asset management. One of the things that domain name renewal, SSL renewals, stuff like that? Is that stuff that you're being notified of it's due to renew? We've had people call us, cold call us, and just say that they're not getting email or website. Can we help? And we like, well, we do a quick look, and yeah, you're not you're not renewed. You're expired, and so kind of there's layers involved here, but how deep do you want to go? And that's just kind of like we want to. Our goal is to handle as much as we can IT, but be specific on what we don't handle. We don't do any application development. We don't support third-party applications. We'll work with your vendors to do that, but how much is the company that's supporting you capable of doing, and what are they contracted to do?
Yeah, I
think-
mean,
Good.
no, I was just gonna try and take a step back for a second. I think a lot of times people think all of the providers are providing the same thing, and it's not also clear, or it's not clear to a client on what is really being included. Things like cybersecurity and compliance, I feel nowadays clients believe that that's part of IT when it's really not. It's a whole beast of its own, and there's a lot of time and complexity involved in those things. And so it's one thing if we're just talking about IT provider and IT support, and that's already complicated to compare because one provider is including on-site, one provider isn't, one provider is including an antivirus, one provider is including an EDR, and there's all these different things. I tell prospects, friends, other business owners I know, like when they're looking, even if they're not looking to work with us, let us help with the evaluation in terms of at least educating them on, it's not apples to apples what they're looking at on every contract. And let's just make sure that at least the base level protections are in place. And again, just IT support for a second, because I think compliance and some of the cybersecurity stuff we should maybe also talk about some in terms of like considerations and what is included. But I think as part of any IT package, like you got to have a team of individuals that's going to support you when you need it. Like help desk is just the base. And if, I don't know, to me, if they're not going to repair something that's broken, then I don't know if I was a business owner, if I'd be working with that client or with that vendor. That sounds just kind of weird to me. But then, looking over the general, I say align with CIS critical 18 controls, but some sort of framework, and say, hey, do we have a firewall in place? Are we enabling Active Directory? Are they going to help us with these things? Do they have an antivirus make sure all the layers are in place, and then that's what we can compare and do a baseline against when we're looking at different vendors outside of SLA and response time and other metrics like that you might want to talk about or evaluate when you're trying to make a decision like that, and how they price things, and is it per seat, and which maybe that's something we want to talk about too a little bit later. But I think taking a step back and understanding what is really included, and then evaluating that is really where you need to start.
You definitely need to understand what it is that you're getting, right?
Yeah.
Because the assumption part of it is where the danger lies.
What you're not getting.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the more important part. But that conversation needs to be had, because not everybody does everything the same. And there's no requirement on any regulated, body's part for any tech person or provider to do anything the same, right? And so, make sure they're meeting with you quarterly. Make sure they're going over business strategies, and they're identifying places where you could potentially save money or be more efficient or be more secure, or all the things there that are important, right, to the existence of the business.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday actually, and they were talking about pricing, and it wasn't selling IT services, but it was about sales, and something that should come up in someone's head when you're looking at price. especially if there's a large difference in price. It shouldn't just indicate, well, oh, hey, these are two of the exact same services and just one is cheaper. A lot of times the general cost to support an environment is going to be generally the same. Hey, maybe within a margin of a few percentage, just like when you buy a computer from Best Buy versus Dell.com or something, right? Yeah, pricing will be a little bit different, but a Dell is a Dell wherever you get it. When it comes with IT providers, there's processes and other things in place which change how you might support. There's also the level and quality of the staff that they have. That's a cost factor in the tools that they're using. But like, hey, yeah, there's going to be a small percentage of difference, but if there's a very large percentage, there's likely a major factor or change in what's being provided, and that should be a trigger, not to necessarily say like, oh, these guys are too expensive, but like, why is that the case? Oh, well, they're including all of our Office 365 licenses, or they're including cloud infrastructure that the other's not doing. And a lot of times I feel providers don't do a good job maybe educating or describing that, but then a prospect signs up with the low cost, quote unquote low cost provider, and they're getting either low cost service or they're getting surprised with a number of licenses or
Add-ons,
things that
right.
they didn't realize
Yeah.
they were going to have to purchase. Yeah.
And the service is not acceptable. It's slow response, the whole 9 yards.
That's another factor. Yeah. It's if you're doing work to your house and you have two contractors come by and they're giving you, you're looking at your pricing. Well, this guy's using, a better vinyl or better windows or whatever. You can see those things. But when you go to a car dealer and you're looking at, I want this model car, and they're a huge difference in price. Well, then you know that this guy's ripping you off. So I like to do if we're bundling services together, we'll put our pricing out there, but also list everything that we're including in there. So we're including your DNS filtering. We're including your cloud backup. We're all this stuff is all. There's nothing that you're not that we're doing that you're not going to see on this invoice. Maybe there's no dollar amount tied directly to it because we're bundling it in there. But I feel it's important to do that, and that makes it easy for us too. Looking at, if we're looking at a prospect, well, what are you paying? They give us an invoice with nothing on it, with just a number. Well, what are they giving you? And they don't know the value. They have no idea what they're getting. So, how do you, for us, it's hard to, kind of compete with something that we don't know what service you're getting. Definitely challenging to kind of, look at it like that.
Well, I mean, that can tie into all kinds of things, right? Making sure your invoice is correct, your Microsoft licensing is correct, that you're actually getting all the things that are being charged, those types of things.
Yeah, and well, we use that as an entry point also, or not an entry point, a discussion point is, well, what are you paying for? Isn't that important to you to have that at least broken down and have an idea so that we can have these conversations and know what we're talking about here? Too many times I hear, I have no idea, I don't know, and it's unfortunate, but I mean, ideally, yeah, I mean, you'd love to have maybe a back end SOC tied in and have EDR and have and I have people we talk to, we use we're just using WebRoot and no mail filtering. It's like, okay, well then that's we don't do that. This is we go a different direction. We have a different stack that we use or whatever it is. It's just and I'm talking to decision makers, right? And the people that are paying the bills. They just clueless and to be open and have these conversations is important and somewhat eye-opening because with them not knowing, and us looking at a number, it's really hard to determine. They don't even know who's paying their licensing or what they even have, and it's
well, it makes offboarding pretty difficult as well.
100%. We have a full onboarding checklist and information that we require, and they're like,
I mean, I'm sure some of that's by design, right? Like they want to make it hard to leave or
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just gonna say in terms of whether it's an existing client or a prospect looking for services like this.
Check your phone, Brandon. Your connection.
My connection's
There you
bad.
go. Nope.
Oh, okay, sorry about that.
Nope. It just went off again.
Really?
Yeah, you're back into a can. It's like when you
okay.
leave your head.
There you go. Now you better.
All right, I'm not gonna move.
Well,
No, you did though.
Now I'm not gonna move. It works now or no?
No.
Just
No?
went back.
Okay. Never mind. I'm muting myself.
we can hear you. It got very tinny.
Right.
So, David, do you offer different Luft? Do you do different packages? Like, well, I know if you're specific to a vertical, and there's a stack for that vertical, but you offer different packages for different clients or prospects.
Yeah, we'll add advanced security for ones that are in compliance into our core agreement.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it's pretty much the same for everybody now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've been doing. Is we have our security stack that we put out there, and that's not even It's a few line items in the proposal, but it's not negotiable. It's like this is what we're going to provide to protect you, and then David Groot, with all the compliance stuff and all the that could be a separate conversation too, because if someone says we're registered with the SEC, or we have to maintain this compliance, and it's like, okay, well where are you now? Because we don't know, right? We don't know the state that they're in.
Right.
So what is it going to take on our end to maintain that compliance, right? HIPAA, whatever it is.
And
Well,
things that bounce around like Microsoft licenses, we don't include that in the core contract because that's all over the place.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's also cyber insurance reviews and making sure you're meeting the requirements of that, and just a half a dozen other platforms that you want to be reviewing, even vendor contracts, all that stuff. Right.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yep. Much better.
Yeah, I was just I'll add to David, and then I'm gonna go back to what I was gonna say. But contract reviews, cyber insurance, like these things are also not typically included in most IT providers' packages. So there's a lot of process that goes into due diligence over a vendor assessments that I think may be a surprise to some when they get a bill, and should be a consideration or something that they understand and realize. The other thing I was trying to go back to is for anybody looking for a provider, things they may want to consider in their contract, I think could be something good that we could add some value. At least a selling point to us when I'm when I'm out there. Hey, are they requiring you to do a long-term commitment, or when there's onboarding or offboarding, what do you need to evaluate on your contractual obligations? Like, is there a notice period? I think these are things that are very important to look at before you sign on the final dotted line. Is there an out after you onboard? Is there any satisfaction guarantee over the first 30 or 90 days? Is there any SLA on the day-to-day support, or if they don't respond in a week, is that acceptable and you have to still stay within contract and you're locked in for 3 years? I think these are some things that maybe you should consider. I don't know if you guys have any other recommendations for people looking for stuff like that.
I agree that so all of our contracts are we write them for a year, but they're month to month, and good, bad, or indifferent. I mean, that's how I've done it for years, and it just resonates well with a prospect that you can opt out. We ask for 30 days, and that's something that they feel that they have that. And again, if you're providing what you're providing, and you're sharing your reviews with them and references and your quality of service is exactly where you say it is, then there's nothing no reason for them to kind of use that as any type of leverage, because you can get out at any time. But there's a lot. Some of these contracts that I've seen are anywhere from 4 pages to over 100 on some of these contracts, and that's a lot. I mean, that's something. So there's an investment on their end to legally have an attorney at least look at it. And I did have an insurance company that came back and wanted me to change some verbiage in my contract that I've had for God knows how many years. But we did. I went to my attorney and we did change what he wanted. It was really nominal to us, but it was nice to know that actually someone is taking the time and reading that, because it is, it's a binding agreement you have with these customers. So you want to make sure that they're, you're meeting their expectations and you're doing what you say you're going to be doing within the confines of the contract.
Right.
We all do. So I have a separate contract that we do for our SOC services, right? Because that's a different agreement, but it's there's different terms on that. So I have a separate contract for that. That's just a simple one-page contract with terms on it, really. So some clients have two contracts, but I think something else that we see is people. A lot of prospects that we talk to and new clients that we've taken on don't have any type of backup on their cloud services because they're told that's they're already backed up or the clusters are redundant and they don't need that. But
Office 365 and Google Workplace don't need backups, do they? They're doing that.
And I heard firewalls aren't a thing anymore either.
Yep.
Oh yeah, you heard that.
So there's a lot of and we do a decent amount of VoIP for our clients, and for us it's just we do an assessment, a site assessment, make sure that the network is stable enough to handle the additional VoIP traffic, and we get involved and we handle that as well. We don't bill for it, so it's not in our contract, but we provide those services as well. We try to touch anything IT that we can. And incorporate that, into our services. But like I said, there's some things that we don't do. We don't provide any type of application development or programming or anything like that. Or web. We don't do web development. Some guys do. I don't know if you guys do web design or web hosting or anything like that.
We do some.
Yeah.
What about like having them ask about insurance? I feel like that's important. Hey, if
Absolutely.
I'm telling my clients to make sure they've got like cyber policies in place, and if you're talking to an IT provider, make sure they've got tech E&O and cyber policy in place as well. Because I mean, if they're not protecting their house and doing some of this stuff, then I don't think they should be qualified to protect you either.
Well, to what David said before is in that, or maybe it was you, Brandon, but you can have 5 level 1 techs to my 2 level 2 techs, and we'll blow you out of the water because we're going to get stuff done more efficiently and without the hand holding that's needed. So, that's staffing costs, right? So how much are you investing in your support staff, and along those lines, your insurance for your staff and your business is I mean, we pay a lot for insurance. We hold a lot of insurance. We have to. We carry a lot, and we do kind of tout that in our proposals. We make sure that your current company is adequately insured and ask for proof if needed. But you don't want to get burned by that because you can go ahead and sue them all you want if something happens, but chances are you're not going to get very far with that if they don't have the insurance. So anything you want to end with? Anything specific?
I think we gave some pretty good tips.
Yeah.
I mean, my biggest thing is just realize cybersecurity and compliance are a totally different animal, and
not an
budgeting for
IT
that.
role, right?
Huh?
It's not an IT role.
Yeah.
Right.
Compliance and security is often mixed with IT because in a day we used to have antivirus and firewalls, and now we don't need antivirus or firewalls, so we don't use IT anymore for security or compliance. No, I'm just kidding. But that's where the IT idea comes from, right? I'm sure, because those are some of the most common controls, and that does fall in the lane of the IT department.
I mean, the biggest piece would be to make sure you're actually reading the contract, or like Brian said, have somebody review it.
Yeah.
So that and then also outline all of the services that are provided, so you don't have to read a 40-page contract to figure it out from the different providers you're, evaluating.
Yeah, and we have changed our contracts over the years as things have changed. We've made some changes, some additions, taken some stuff out, but we're doing what we can, and we're not. Listen, nothing is when it comes to pricing. I mean, you want to sit down and take your your top three based on. I mean, you can't look at pricing alone, because there could be the cheapest guy out there that doesn't have very, his customers aren't happy. I mean, reference checks are very important. We send out reference checks with every proposal. We write them right on there. Whether or not they check or not, that's on them. But depending on the vertical that we're pitching to, we give them 3 or 4 references for that vertical that we've worked in for the last number of years. So that's important too.
But if you're paying more, you should be getting way better service than the cheap ones, and that's the difference.
Or having a lot more protection. Your risks
Oh,
is
yeah.
your risk is reduced. Hopefully, I mean,
Yeah.
Exactly. I just.
Yep. All right, guys.
Money.
Yeah.
Thank you, and we will chat again next week.
perfect. Yeah. See you
Bye.
guys.